3000.
What is doing? I hate doing it, but I want everyone to like, subscribe, follow us on our Instagram, hit the subscribe button right there. One click, it's totally free. It helps the channel grow. Share the content, comment, do all that good stuff. Help us keep bringing you 3000 podcasts. Now to the guest. Cheers. What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by Dave from Skateblock. Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me, mate.
You don't have to look at the camera. You can if you want to. So you've got an interesting story, man. Obviously, you make skate blocks, you make skate coping, a lot of concrete stuff, building skate parks, a lot to talk about, man.
Yeah, I've been pretty busy these last, I think it's almost going on 4 years now.
4 years. It's a long time to be busy for.
I know. Skateboarding sort of dropped off a little, but yeah.
Well, let's start with your story. I know you didn't grow up here in Melbourne, but tell us about where you grew up and how you kind of got involved in the skateboard scene to start with, man.
So I grew up in a small town, Bowen, in the Whitsundays, up in North Queensland.
Right. Nice place to grow up.
Yeah, great place. And grew up on a tomato farm. So,
right.
Yeah, interesting.
A tomatoes, fruit or vegetables?
Vegetable, I think. It took me a long time I've only just started eating them in the last 4 years, 5 years. Getting
because
into Mexican
growing up on
food.
the farm just did it for you.
Everywhere. And the thing is with properties and tomato farms and all stations, they always seem to smack bang put the property in the middle of the whole property.
Right.
So, yeah, they'd be picking tomatoes, slashing them, and then with the hot sun, the stench, and just sort of helping my mum in the actual sort of, basically the packing shed. I'd be cleaning up, and there'd be rotten ones, and they'd just explode, and fucking
So
tomatoes.
I'll put you off tomatoes almost for life.
Pretty much, yeah.
So you're growing up in
They're everywhere. Even the pickers, they'd be picking them and they'd just start eating them, and they spray the things with pesticides and that. So I'd be riding my dirt bike around. Well, no, the crop duster's up there, and better bail, and you just get sort of half misted. But the guys that didn't wear gloves picking, their hands were green. The tomatoes are white. They get taken to the factory, washed, processed. They're just nom, 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 nom.
So they don't. Again. So you don't pick them ripe red.
They do, and then they also pick them green and gas them in a gas coal room.
Jeez, that sounds morbid.
I know. You don't want to get stuck in a gas coal room.
No.
Yeah.
So, okay, there you go.
So, yeah, there's a bit of tomato.
I had no idea we were going to go on.
Yeah, I don't think many people do.
So where do you go from the tomato farm to the skate park? Is there any skate parks up there?
Not yet, no. So one of my mates growing up, his brother was older, and he had all the old vision boards, and he built this gnarly little half pipe in his backyard, and it went to vert, and it was basically almost a U-pipe. So
no flat bottom.
Not much. So yeah, dropping in on that was you pulled that off, you were killing it. Mm-hmm. But then so with the tomato farm, there was always concrete around and stuff. So I'd sort of start skating there, and then I sort of whipped up a little half pipe, and that didn't last long.
Right.
Thin sheeted it with ply. My mate had a first roll on it, popped straight through it. It's not ready yet. So, then we all sort of started getting into skating, and we were street skating mainly, and trying to push the council to build a park. And
is there skatable streets around there? Obviously there's concrete, but I'm guessing there's not a lot of obstacles or much.
Little bits, The main spot was the ANZ Bank, and it was right next to a pub, a busy pub. Yeah. So you'd always get the drunk guys come out, give us a go, I'll go. And then
what have you got, a little 3-stair ledge or something like that?
It was an open car park with all these pathways through the garden that started at different levels, and then
so it was kind of cool.
Yeah, and then just down from that was a big 3-stair gap sort of thing.
Yeah. So there would have been towns that had less than that, I'd imagine.
Pretty much, yeah. So but then you still had the schools too.
So, yeah. Okay.
Bowen's so small, you can pretty much walk almost anywhere.
Right. And that's the thing when you go to some of these country towns, and most of them have little skate parks now, but some of the surfaces and the concrete, it's not even really skatable concrete.
No, like we were sort of lucky that a lot of it was sort of smooth-ish, not compared to parks these days, but
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember, we were sort of with the spot. There wasn't that much there at the ANZ Bank, but we were playing Tiggy one day. It was just like, see you can catch someone and that sort of shit. So there was a little ledge you could just like ollie up. It was near a vacant shop, and one of my mates was in, and he couldn't really ollie that well. So he's chasing me. I ollied up, hit a rock, tried to ride it out. Bang, through the shop window. Vacant shop, just like a shotgun went off. It's like probably a 1,200 high window, 1,800 long, not a massive one.
How old are you, like 12 or something?
I was 14.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And then there was about 10 of my mates there. They just bang. It's like...
Gone.
Basically, I'm like in the window, fucking waiting for pain and looking for blood and hearing glass just ching around me. I'm like, someone want to get me out of here? And then one of my mates come over and they're all freaking out. Like, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? I'm like, well, it's an accident. I'll just go to the cop shop and dob myself in. Like,
were you injured?
No, I had a few little cuts, but I had all this glass hair on my back, like through my shirt.
Oh, wow.
And my mates are freaking out. I'm like, it's just an accident. And same time, if I would have left it, it's going to shut the spot down. As it was, like, we'd skate there some nights and security would be there and kick us out. And
it sounds like a pretty small town that I'm pretty sure
everyone
if you
knows
didn't fess
everyone.
up,
Someone would have
seen it.
Yeah. Otherwise, they would have just blamed a drunk guy at the pub kicking a window, but it's midday on a Sunday. Like, so, yeah, that was the thing. It's just like, I'll go to the cop shop, dob myself in, and my mates are like, thinking, I'm going to go home. And the mate that pulled me out of the window came with me. I left my board with my mates because I knew they're probably going to take that. But, yeah, that quiet of a town, the cop shop front door was shut. Like, I'm pressing the buzzer, and then this big copper comes out. Like, Bam Bam was his name. And you remember him from school discos. Because, we'd get a bit rowdy in Bowen, sort of. But, yeah, he came to the door and was like, what do you guys want? I'm like, I just broke a shop window up near the club hotel. Like, broke a window, did you? I'm like, yeah, it's vacant, but it's an accident. And yeah, basically took us in. We sat there for ages, and then one copper came out, and he's like, "You're gonna get charged with what was it? It was
criminal damage.
Basically, trying to think of the word, but yeah, basically like damage to public property, and then he's trying to hit me with use of a unlicensed, unregistered motor vehicle. I'm like,
give me
what?
a break.
A motor vehicle? I'm like, it's a skateboard. He's like, yeah, but you're the motor. I'm like, oh, whatever, I'll ride it out. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I'm 14. What am I going to go to court? And I'm already saying, look, I'll pay for the window. And he's like, oh, it's going to cost you about $1,000. And back then, he's like, wow, well, all right, is what it is. But, they sat us there for so long, and it was just like, it just went on, and they're like, you're going to get charged, go to court, and I'm like, yeah.
They're trying to scare you?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so they said they were going to ring my parents, and basically they were not really into skateboarding anyway.
Right.
I'm like, oh, well, there goes that. And it was a sad day, because there was a party on that night. It was one of my mates' birthdays. So I went home and basically told them, yeah, Mum wasn't real happy, and it was sort of like, oh, at least you're all right, but you're not going to that party. I'm like, oh, fuck. All right, whatever.
Could have been worse. Could end up in the fucking hospital.
Well,
man.
That's what the copper said too. He's like, oh, you're lucky to be alive. You could just be a pool of blood if you went through Bowen Evans' shop window, because we used to skate that one too. It had like a sort of a ceramic tile lip to it, like the old school tread ones.
Yeah.
Sort of grind like pool coping. You hear it, tuck, 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 tuck. It was that waxed up. So, yeah, that was eventful. And then that sort of started us petitioning for a skate park a bit more. And
is there one there now?
There's two good ones.
So if you didn't end up through the window, man, who knows? You know what I mean?
Well, that's it. But at the same time, when they did ask us about a skate park, we were going to Airlie Beach a lot, which is like a cool little town, pretty much party town near the islands.
They got a bit more money.
Yeah, they had an open-ended bowl that escalated down, one of those big weird pyramids in the middle with quarters, so you could use each side as a half pipe. Because we went there that much and we didn't know much, like we were like, let's get Airlie Beach. So they built us that. I think the council done it in like 3 or 4 pours.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you happy?
No, we were happy we got it. When we skated, we were like, this sucks. It's so bumpy and lumpy and
okay, because what are we talking now? Mid-90s?
Yeah, this would be like
late 90s.
Late 90s.
So the technology or not even the technology, the know-how of how to build a smooth concrete park, it's a bit few and far between, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not there yet.
Especially in northern Queensland.
Yeah, it's hot. So you basically, once you're pouring, and the amount they poured, like, there was no way they were going to trail that up smooth.
They were just dudes who would normally do
pools.
Concrete drive pools, right?
Yeah, pools with the council guys, because the ramps and flats were all poured in one. There was no seam construction join like how they're built now.
Okay.
So
you started to... So without even realising it, you're like, hang on a second, I could do better than this.
Sort of back then I wasn't into concrete. I'm like, oh, well, yeah. And one of my mates, he told us about it at school. He went there that day they poured in the RV and he's like, man, they've ruined it. It's shit. It's like I was telling them and they're telling me to fuck off. And yeah, but it was sort of gnarly. Like one quarter we just went to vert and it was probably only 3 foot high.
So was it an exact replica of the Airlie Beach one?
Yeah, but they ruined it.
In what they just cut corners or something?
Lumpy and bumpy, and coping didn't stick out on certain spots and did in certain spots.
The little 1% of things.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're just thinking, oh, it looks kind of the same.
Yeah, it looks the same, whatever. Like, that's good enough. But funny thing is, like 2 years later or so, Collinsville, it's a mining town, 80 k's west of Bowen. They got the same facility built. So now there's 3 of these replica parks. Oh. But they got the good one. Like, I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure they got, this was before Convic started, Conquest. Like one of the guys that started Convic, Cam. Pretty sure those guys went and built that because we went there and skated it. And we're like, man, this is so much better than our park. And like, even just waxing up this one rail they had there, it was that hot, the wax stayed wet and was like, hot candle wax.
Should you be waxing rails though?
It's Queensland, everything rusts.
Right. Okay.
Dry. Like, even like when we get a good downpour there, the power goes out because of all the dust build up in the power lines.
Yeah.
So.
And even just to skate, it's hot a lot, man. Yep. And it'd be radiating. That'd be bouncing off the concrete. You'd be getting sunburn on your fucking legs.
Yeah, it was gnarly, and we'd be skating with no shirts on because it's hot, and then you'd go home and like, I'm so cooked.
So sunburned. Yeah. So where do you go after you finish school? Where do you go, man? You stay in Queensland?
I hung around for another year and worked on a capsicum farm.
It's more interesting than tomatoes?
Yeah. I still wasn't that into capsicums, but I pretty much had a cruisy job like driving the carting in trucks. So basically loading the capsicum buckets, driving the trucks to the main shed and unloading them in the hopper. But seen some wild things like just working with backpackers and...
So that's like, so when people have to go do their farm time, they'd go do that sort of stuff?
Sort of. And that's when Bowen sort of like basically booms. It's a pretty quiet town. I think the population's about 10 or 11,000.
Right, that's not much.
No, so the fruit season, it brings everyone up. They either start at Shep and work their way up and then go to, or they start at Margaret River doing the vineyards and work their way over. And yeah, so just meeting backpackers and stuff like that was pretty interesting. Like,
were you travelling anywhere else out of the state though?
Not.
So you were.
I was for like because nothing happens up there. So for any big day outs or livid festivals, stuff like that,
you go to Sydney.
We'd go to Brisbane.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, I remember catching a bus there, like me and my mate. Like,
what's that, like 10 hours or something?
Yeah, it was awful. It's like we were 17 and we're like, yeah, we'll go to Livid Festival. I think it was Livid 99. Yeah, Offspring and Suicidal Tendencies headline.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, went there thinking, oh yeah, this is awesome. There'll be an ATM. We had $20 between us that day.
And no ATMs.
No, but we bumped into a heap of people with like that hooked us up with beers and stuff like that. Even though we were 17, but just the getting there, we were like, yeah, we'll get the bus. We jump on the bus. We were right behind the driver. Yeah. It's like, no, what have we done? Like, I remember it might have been like 2 or 3 in the morning. He's like hitting my leg and he was looking for his like 2-liter jug of milk that he was drinking. And it must have been just full of caffeine or something. But it was such a painful trip. Like, they stop at every roadhouse. Like, yeah.
Because people are getting off or because?
Both getting off and on.
Yeah, that's the worst.
So it almost doubles the stretch and yeah, no.
And then after the festival, you got to sit on a bus for 10 hours to go home, man.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a bad time.
Yeah, joys in North Queensland. Like, yeah.
So when you eventually get out of Queensland, where do you move to?
So basically, when I was 17, because I was into dirt bikes heaps growing up on a farm.
That's pretty standard practice.
Yeah, dirt bikes and yeah, it was sort of cool growing up there because I got to play with guns and all that sort of stuff and. Yeah, so sold my dirt bikes and bought a combi van, so I still got, and made it as far as Lismore.
Okay, still a decent stretch.
Yeah.
At 18?
Yeah, so I had like, I think almost $2,000, threw all my stuff in the back and just went, oh, I'm going to Byron Bay and see what it's all about. And yeah, got there and I was lucky. A mate was living in Lismore with another... mate and their family sort of thing. So they sort of took me in and bummed around there for about 6 months. And yeah, I was just like, I'll just sort of go home. Lismore flooded too.
Oh, it's still, man, it has.
I know, always.
It's so sad.
We were lucky that we were up on top in Goonyella and yeah, the bottom of Lismore is like a bowl. Like,
and it just keeps happening. Super sad.
All the time.
Like I think last year it flooded and they still hadn't rebuilt from the 2 years before when it flooded.
No. So, but even where we lived, that hill was so steep. Like every time I'd sort of go to Nimburn or Lennox Heads, I'd be just freaking out. The combi's just going to stop midway up the hill. Like,
what year combi is it?
74.
That's like one of the cool looking ones.
No, it's not a split window. I ended up getting a split window and stupidly sold it. Like. Yeah, I know, I regret that. It had everything but the key. Like, it sat in a cane farmer's paddock because they sort of hoard their machinery and all their sort of possessions. And a mate seen it. It was off the highway. And, yeah, I went and had a look at it. And pretty much within 10 minutes of being there, you could feel like being watched here. The main house is over there. And there's no fences. So, but, yeah, basically, car pulled up. Oh, what are you guys doing? I'm like, oh, just... notice your combi, is it for sale? And he's like, oh, I haven't used that since the kids were bloody young and they're 18 now. And I'm like, oh, I'll give you $2,000 for it. I'll think about it. And yeah.
He called you back?
I pestered him for about 6 months.
Right. Just kept ringing him, kept going there.
Hey, mate, how are you? Want to sell that combi? And yeah, then when I got it, it was like, and then I'd started building skate parks. So I was like always away. And I'm like, I'll just get rid of it and spewing.
Yeah. So how old are you when you get into the skate park stuff or the concreting stuff?
I would have been about 24. So I'd already done concrete for about 8 years before. I was probably a bit older, 27, 28. It's all a bit of a blur, the whole concrete game.
But so when so where were you when you start doing the skate park stuff?
I was in Mackay. So when I was in Lismore, I'm thinking, well, probably should go back up home. Like, I applied for a job in the candle factory in Nimburn, and back then I was sort of like, yeah, facial piercings and all the whole late 90s thing, and went for this job interview, wore a button-up shirt, took out all my piercings, and this guy was just looking at me like, I think you're too sort of...
Even in Nimburn?
Yeah. Like, I did comb my hair as well, probably didn't help. But, yeah, he showed me his... Basically, he sort of does what I do, but with steel molds, with wax. Like, he'd make these big pyramid-looking things. It's pretty cool. I was like, actually, wouldn't mind getting into this. And his studio was pretty cool set up. It was right near a sort of a creek and fresh running water, and yeah, he just never called me back. No.
But I guess you saw, all right, I feel like I could work with some sort of material, making these molds, kind of plants a seed.
Because the plan was like go to Byron Bay, maybe I get into making surfboards and stuff, and then realise fiberglass thing's not fun. Like
toxic, man.
Yeah, yep. And all the fibres and sanding it.
So you go back to Mackay.
Yeah, well, the plan was like, well, there's not much in Bowen. Like, there's still no traffic lights there to this day. Right. Like, we only got Macca's a couple of years ago when they built the new skate park on the foreshore.
It's like we need somewhere for the kids to go to the toilet and buy a cheeseburger.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm not going back to Bowen because I'll just end up back on a farm again, and I'll go to Mackay. Mm-hmm. So ended up in Mackay.
Concreting.
Yeah, I was there about 2 weeks. I was at a skate park, Slade Point. Pretty cool park, right near the beach. And it was about midday, and there was this sort of big dude there, sort of looked a bit like Mike V. And I was like, oh, this guy's pretty gnarly looking. And yeah, we're skating, he said g'day, and then started doing tricks and egging each other on. And then he's like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, nothing at the moment. He's like, oh, you can't do nothing. I'm like, yeah, I've got my own concrete business taken over from my uncle and looking for a labourer if you're interested. I'm like, yeah, concrete. I've sort of watched people pour that, just see them footpaths get poured with council. And, he's like, oh, I've got a mini ramp in my backyard. And then he's like, is that your combi? I'm like, yeah. He goes, oh, so you smoke? I'm like, yeah. And this was back when I did smoke a lot. Like now, couldn't be bothered. That much with it, but and then he's like, oh, where do you live? And I'm like, oh, Broadtown Road. He's like, oh, I live Bridge Road. That's close as. Let's go back to my place, have some buckets. Buckets? Whoa, you are gnarly. So went back there and had some and skated his mini, and then what was it like? Probably a week later, I'm doing house slabs.
Right. So that's what you would. So his it was sort of no frills concrete stuff, doing house slabs. And
his uncle, basically, I think he was like 3rd generation, 4th generation. Like, it's a whole family of concrete where he comes from. But he had a few good builders doing house slabs, and the guy was a machine. Shout out Shane Island for everything you've taught us. But, I didn't, like, it was just basically me and him. Like, they were small house slabs, like, just 200 squares, no beams, so we'd truck most of it.
Yeah.
And it was sort of early days, like, there wasn't much concrete rakes around, so he made his own, and they were heavy, fucking gnarly things. And we'd just spew out a truck in the middle of a slab, rake it, or if it was a big sort of slab, he'd put down 200 boards on heaps of chairs and just barrow it. It was an animal.
Really?
Yeah.
So not
animal.
Barrow the whole thing?
Almost, till he could start shooting it.
Right. So, it'll keep you fit.
Oh, yeah, it did, yeah. And, like, he was one of them guys, it sort of wore off on me, like, it'd be going hard and he'd probably need a hand, but he'd be like, no, it's all good, I got this. Like, basically, I helped him put the conch in, wash tools, chopped up on the plan, filled the bucket up, and helped him lift the trowel machine off and on, and he'd jump off the machine, do all the edges, jump back on. I'm like, well, this guy's fucking running. Shane, and he came like, no, all good, mate, all good. Never really stressed too much, but I was like...
Well, so I guess he wanted someone to help him when he needed a hand. He also wanted someone to do the shit that he was like, I'm focusing on this, I can't wash the tools as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and also too, like, it's hot, North Queensland, like, you don't really want someone that's fresh playing around with the sides and fucking it up, and then he's got to quickly fix it, or the chippies carpenters come in, start putting frames up, and it's not flat. And
Yeah, I guess because a climate like that where it's so hot, you've got a lot less time to make mistakes.
Big time. Like, even pouring, we try and pour as early as we can because it's pretty much daylight, blaring at 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. So we'd have a pump there at 5:30. But even on the real hot days, like, he'd be on the trowel machine and it'd just start, the steel was even hot when we started. So the cracks would just follow the mesh. You'd be like, get the hose out. Oh. But it all gets covered anyway. But still, it's like, But
did he have any ambitions of doing more interesting concrete stuff, or that was he had already sort of been born into it? So
yeah,
that was just the
and
job.
he had a full lineup of builders, so he was flat out.
Yeah. So you sort of cut your teeth there and think, okay, I don't mind working with this concrete thing, but there's a little bit more creativity. That
Yeah,
can
well,
happen.
as soon as I'd done it, like we'd skate Slade Point, and I'd be like, Shane, how did they do that? Like the quarters? He's, oh, they use shotcrete. I'm like, what the fuck, shotcrete? Oh, they spray it like a pool. I'm like, oh, yeah, still didn't know. And then because we'd do the house slab, then we'd come back, do the surrounds, the driveways. And I remember one day they were spraying a pool, the pool guys. And he's like, see, that's shotcrete. I'm like, fuck that. I'm like, messy, fucking, all the silica fume just gets blasted into the air.
Right.
Pretty gnarly stuff.
Yeah, so break down that for people that don't know. It's like instead of it pumping through a big hose, you're shooting it out of like essentially like an air pressure.
Yeah, so it's pretty much like how you see a concrete pump pumping normal concrete, but this is a smaller size line with about, I think it's 100 psi compressed air going into that line that's blasting that concrete on the wall. And it's a different mix. It's very sticky, gluggy. But yeah, like even the guy on that pump, he's just like blasting. Like he's basically sort of like a crazy spray paint gun on steroids. Like, yeah.
It's almost
dangerous too.
It's almost
if it blocks
like
up,
early
like,
3D printing almost, because you're
basically.
shooting stuff that's So then when you see that in action, at first you're like, I don't really understand. I don't really care too much about that. But it kind of, the concrete's in your blood now. So you're like, I'm kind of interested.
Yeah, like seeing that, and it's like, oh yeah, that pool almost might be skatable, but yeah. And then just seeing how they done that, I was like, wow, there's a lot of work in skate parks if that's how they
do the pool,
do the transitions and everything.
Yeah, because they're not thinking about like swimming pools of having perfect transition, because they're like, well, essentially just needs to hold the water.
Yeah, that's it.
You're not worried about...
No, and most pools that get sprayed, they'll spray it, cut it, and leave it open. So it gets basically rendered, tiled, whatever it's going to be done. They don't really trowel it too much, so in and out. And
so then do you start to think, okay, the skate park thing is interesting to me?
Sort of, but I was like, yeah, you know, and then how it happened was Convic were building a skate park in my hometown, Bowen, which is 180, almost 2 hours north of Mackay.
Right.
And I was sort of getting into house slabs now, like getting on the trowel, learn how to use the trowel machine. It'd been 8 years, like I finally allowed to touch tools, sort of. But no, it was like the second, it took me about a year to sort of get into concreting and everything. Yeah. But yeah, Convic were building a park, and they advertised for labourers, concreters, formworkers, carpenters, and even my mum told me about it because they'd sold the farm now and moved into town. So they weren't...
No more tomatoes.
No more. That was it. Like, and that was the thing with tomatoes. The price is always up and down, and I'd never understood too much and got too involved, like fucking tomatoes. But yeah, so I called up Convic, and at this time I didn't have a license.
Right.
Couple beers after work, and
yeah.
So I thought, well, they're building a park. It's like 4 blocks from my mum's house. Yeah, I'll just see what they say. And I just wanted to see how they done the ramps. I didn't really want to pursue it, sort of. But then I spent a week with them, and they're like, how do you feel about going to Canberra? I'm like, yeah, right, I'm on the team. Yeah. And
was the dude from Mackay sort of upset that you'd gone? But it was you'd done 8 years.
Yeah, and I'd floated from other companies too, because he sort of went quiet here and there. And like, I think I worked for... top of my head, maybe 6 other concrete companies in Mackay, but everyone knew everyone.
Yeah, so you learnt the art. Though.
Yeah. Everyone knew everyone, and they sort of, it was a love-hate relationship always. The best was the ready mix, the concrete plant parties when they did have them.
So, concrete plant parties?
Yeah, the concrete...
Tell us about that.
Yeah, they were off their heads. Like, they'd have it at this pub at the Boomerang Hotel. I lived not far from there. So it was a pub sports bar, pokey room, big bistro, and at the back was a motel with a pool in the centre. They'd have it at the back where the pool was, and basically free piss. And anyone that used ready mix concrete companies, they'd invite. And I think they only done it for maybe 2 or 3 years. There's just too many fights. Too many fights and out of hand. Like
concrete isn't free piss. What could go wrong?
Yeah. And rival companies, and there's a few stories. Of just all in brawls and
wow.
They stopped doing that.
So you're in Mackay working for Convic. You're learning how skate parks are built, and they obviously saw that you're keen. You're mixing your two sort of passions, your concrete and your skating sort of thing. So it seems like it was going to work. Like when they offered to send you to go to Canberra, you're like, all right.
Yeah, so I went to Canberra and it was winter at the time. I'd been in Melbourne before for holidays. It's been cold. But never, we get the odd cold morning, frost and stuff on formwork or the grass, but it's gone by 9 o'clock at the latest and it's hot. Yeah, Canberra was I'd never worked in conditions like that. Maybe it was sleet in the air and just
it's real cold there. I think because it's
6 degrees
and I think
all
it's
day.
the altitude as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this was back when they put us in caravan parks. I remember one morning especially, go to brush my teeth, turn the tap on, bah, it's frozen. The whole line's frozen. The drip's frozen. I'm like, yeah, right. Oh, sweet. And then go to work, and even opening the container doors, you'd have to put gloves on, the sea containers, the steel doors. And I'm just like, this fucking sucks. Fuck, what have I got myself into?
But was it a cool park to build?
Woden, yeah. It was sort of built a little bit. Yeah, they sort of got a lot of subbies in, and it was so wet. We were pouring concrete on pretty mushy stuff. A fair few of the flats have been replaced over the years.
Right.
It was sort of, it was get it done, basically.
But I guess it's a good lesson for you to learn how to be pouring concrete in different climates.
It was. And that was the best thing about building skate parks. You're basically going to a different town, and the climate's different. The concrete mix is sort of different.
The locals are different.
Yeah, true. Always. But they were always pretty good to us, because they're like, oh, you guys are building that skate park. Yeah, that's going to be good. My son skates or rides a bike or a scooter or whatever. It was always good. And that sometimes they had nothing. So it was good to build something there for them, or they had an old piece of crusty crap that was getting knocked down, and we'd build something good. And
I guess it's kind of like a bit like going on tour with a band or something.
It was.
You've got all your mates there. You can go to the pub afterwards.
But they'd always we'd get a good crew going, and then they'd always split us up
because they knew you have too much fun.
Yeah, they were always well, we could start another crew if we take a few of these guys.
They've got
that
expertise.
Yeah. And they can teach subbies, and it got a bit annoying like that. If they would have kept, which is hard, but if they would have kept the band together, it would have worked a lot better. But even the containers we'd get, they had about 4 or 5 different containers. Sometimes that container wouldn't go to the next job you're on, so you couldn't really leave tools in it that were yours. Because if you did see them again, you're like, that's Montreal, I think. It looks like a concrete block. And
So working for Convic was a good experience, though? It taught you
it was. I ended up in Hong Kong on one of the parks over there.
Were they kind of leading the way with concrete parks at one stage? If you're going to Hong Kong,
pretty much. I think at one stage there with the Shanghai SMP park, they had the biggest park in the world.
Wow! And you worked on that?
No, that was before my time.
Right. But obviously, that was Convic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Biggest park in the world.
Yeah.
Jesus. So then you're traveling around. So you literally would have gone all over the country to different places.
Pretty much everywhere except Tassie.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think they got too many parks.
No, they done a big one in Hobart, a big bowl. Oh, yeah. And then I was in Freo, I think at the time, Fremantle. Yeah, so they punched that out. And
So break it down for me. Let's get into the nitty gritty a bit now about how the whole concrete park stuff works. So if there's mid 2000s or whatever, they start to build a lot more of them.
Yep.
Now every town's like, all right, well, we got to do skate park. The kids have been asking.
Yeah.
So they'll get the skate park designed and then they'll tender it out to different companies, or would they get Convic to design it and then build it?
It's a bit of both. They do a bit of design and construct, but now there's a few more companies in it because there was only really Convic, concrete skate parks, and the odd sort of park builder here and there, I think, back then. But even when I first started, like, I was basically like, oh, cool, I'm back in my hometown. Like, this will be cool. I'll catch up with everyone I haven't seen for a while and sort of be, when you're building it, you think, oh, yeah, at the start, I'll be the first one to skate it and it'll be sick. And I didn't know there was a continuous flow, like, of parks getting built, like...
Yeah, well, because when you're building one, the plans are getting approved for the next one, and then they're in the early stages, and it just flows on. Because
being North Queensland too, we were pretty limited to stuff. Like, even back growing up, like, to get a skateboard, you'd have to order it through the skate shop or go to Mackay or Townsville and go through City Beach and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you really didn't know what you're in for. You didn't realise when you
when you go to
Canberra.
Get a skate mag and be like, oh yeah, and maybe see a new park getting built somewhere, or watch a video like 411s or Flazzers for skateboarders, by skateboarders vids, and but.
So with your journey on making the parks, working at the parks, how long do you work for Convic for?
I think it was almost 8 years.
So you do 8 years just doing concrete, 8 years making skate parks. Then what happens?
I went back to normal conch.
Right. Why is that?
Stick with what you know, I guess.
Okay. But the skate park work sort of dried up, or you just wanted to change?
I wanted a break. I'd been on the road for so long, and it was just like, it was good and bad. Like, it's basically, like, our stints were pretty full on. 8 weeks off, 1 week off, unpaid.
So you work for 8 weeks, get 1 week off.
Yeah.
You don't get paid.
No.
Then you go
permanent casual. Sorry, Convic, but yeah.
Super and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But no overtime, extra money, no Saturday rate.
Yeah.
And but then at the same time, you're there 8 weeks, and the park's so close to getting finished. Like, oh, do you reckon you can hang around for another week or two, do the sealing, caulking, or pretty it up? And right. I was always a sucker for that. Even when I went for my 1 week break, 3 days or so, they'd be on the phone. Oh, the boys in WA need a hand. Do you reckon you could sort of come back a bit earlier? Yeah, right. Hang up the phone. What the fuck did I just say yes for? Oh, let's do it. Yeah. But no, it was good. I loved the work, and it was interesting and stuff, and the crew, but it was tough too, like living and working with everyone. Yeah.
Like, it sounds fun, but it'd grind on
you. Yeah, it's like they sort of midway through it, they stopped putting us in caravan parks, which were pretty bad. Like, something for a family to live in, and you've got like 3 grown men. You've got walk in, open double bed, kitchen, hallway, 3 bunks, toilet, shower.
Yeah.
So, right, okay.
I feel like if you have a barney with someone at work, now you've got to sleep right next to him.
That's what would happen too. And but at the same time, you'd like get home, like, who the fuck drank my last beer last night? Who ate all my food? Whose dishes are these? Whose laundry is this? It got to like when you were living with mates, when you just left home and... But it was always still good. But if I remember some barneys that would come back from home and people wouldn't talk and stuff, and it was awkward. But it's like, guys, let's just get over it.
Yeah, that's it. So you think, all right, if I go back to normal concreting, at least I can be stable at home, sort of build a life.
Well, I'd been in Melbourne probably almost 3 years then, but I hadn't seen much in Melbourne. I still, I don't get out much. But I was always just in and out, like. So I was like, I just want a break from living out of a suitcase.
Mm-hmm. So you go back to doing just your normal domestic concreting?
Yeah, so basically it was sort of like high-end sort of stuff, like concrete bench tops to sort of extensions on houses where they'd do a deck, and it wasn't just house slabs. I didn't want to go back to that. Like,
but that stuff's getting cool and pretty fucking interesting, man. I love it.
Yeah.
It's such a cool medium to work with.
Yeah, what you can do with conch, if you can form it up with curvy things and cantilevered stuff.
Yep.
Pretty rad.
So is that when you started working for this specialised company, or are you doing your own thing?
No, sort of a specialised company, and then that was just subby work, but so yeah, you pay your own tax and that sort of stuff. I met a lot of cool guys and this and that through that, and then I got drawn back to parks again. A mate started a company.
And then he's like, come on, man.
Yeah,
we're getting the band back together.
I got the itch. I met him at Convic, and he sort of started a little skate park company, and we done a few little parks here and there, mainly New South Wales. And
so you just started working for him back on the road?
Yeah, we done a couple. Like, it wasn't full time, but it was like a month or two, and yeah.
So that got you back thinking, all right, this is really where it's kind of at. Do you start fucking around then with your blocks and with your molds?
No, not yet. But I sort of met Nathan Beck, Jimmy, the vert skater, and it was on that second park I done with United, that he pulled out a mold. I'm like, what's that? Oh, it's mold, pool coping mold. I'm like, that's sick. And then he was using leftover concrete from the park to do blocks. Like, man, I want one of them. I waste so much concrete at work, wherever I work on sites. Like, yeah, sometimes they'll, especially with colour, they'll have to order it by the cube. So there's always heaps left over. Or someone will fucking order up and be like, oh, I've got a 3 cube left. I'm sending it back. Or they'll tip it out and it'll be just a mountain of concrete.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, I want to get one of these. Yeah, that'd be just good to have something like that. Man.
In Melbourne's different to if you had that in Queensland, it's not going to last, the leftover concrete.
No. I don't even think I could make blocks if I still lived there, being so hot.
Really?
Unless I was back on the farm with the cold room. Right. Like, pouring them in that. Like,
that's the reality of it.
Yeah. I've thought about that too, like moving back. I'm like, I'd have to get like a fucking... Yeah, because like even on hot days in Melbourne, I'll try not to pour, and I've stuffed up a few blocks, like pouring on hot days, because they just cook in the mould, and we'll pop it out and I'll have all these stress cracks. I'm like, well, that was a fail. Maybe I can polish that or go to a DIY or something.
Yeah, so many variables.
It is.
So you see this dude with the mould, you're like, okay, tell me about this. So he's got like a rubber mould?
Yeah, polyurethane rubber.
Right.
Yeah.
And so at this stage, there's a lot of skate parks being built. Are they being built with the pool coping?
No, see, that was the thing. Convic went through a change. I remember Woden Skate Park. It's got a sort of a pool corner with the wedding cake steps, a tombstone extension or two with their concrete pool coping in it with the Convic logo, like the Frankston Bowl.
Right.
And yeah, seeing the blocks, I'm like, oh, these are cool. And then I was like, looking at them, like, a bit bubbly. Now I look back. But after that, they didn't really use pool coping that much. Right. And then St Kilda popped up, and they went through using granite pool coping.
Mm-hmm. That was my local park for a bit.
Yeah, that was a fun build.
Yeah. So you built the whole thing with that company?
Yep.
Right. And so who was doing the coping tiles for that?
I'm pretty sure they get Granite Works in Melbourne. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they hand cut them all.
Wow.
I think all up that bowl back then was about $30,000 worth of pool coping.
And they've replaced a lot of it since as well.
I got hit up to replace the love seat corner pocket. Yeah. Which was a bit of a weird thing.
Be a weird thing. So then, so there's concrete skate parks everywhere, but this sort of stuff, that specialty thing is kind of a bit few and far between.
Yeah, like I'd never seen a pool coping mould. Like, so yeah, I sort of pestered him a bit, and he's like, oh no.
So he was doing it just for backyard jobs and stuff.
Yeah, he's fucking a talented dude. He'll fucking make a surfboard, make a guitar, like. Yeah, real detailed cabinet maker guy. His brain just thinks like, I can make this out of this. And
yep.
Yeah, so I think he got hit up by a surf shop in Ocean Grove. They were doing a mini ramp.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, hit him up for some blocks because I think they seen some of the Instagram stuff when I was at United of him making the blocks, and it was pretty funny. He stored them on site, just made got some black plastic and some timbers and made basically a water curing pool for them.
Right.
So those blocks just stayed on site. And
so you cure them in water?
yeah, that's another thing too. Like cure them in water for about a week or so, and then store them, and then
because that makes them.
Water curing. It's like an old sort of back like, where's it come from? Like maybe even the old concrete of like back when it was sort of getting done was like they water cured it like.
Right. And so then when you start to make he gives you your first mold?
Not yet. No, the surf shop hits him up for some blocks. And I was like, yeah, that's why I should, like, get a mould and I can sort of, we can make pool coping or stuff, but not on a big scale. Like, so yeah, the surf shop hits him up. I was driving to Sydney anyway, so and then he sort of decides he'll make me a mould from the template he made himself too. He made the block.
Right.
That's my OG profile.
Okay. And so run us through how that would work. So you'd have to make, because it's like the negative and the positive, what comes first. So how do you make the mold if you don't have the original prototype?
So basically, if you've got a decent concrete block already, you can cast off that.
Okay. But someone's got to make that
that
block.
too.
This is what
And that was the thing. I won't say too much of how he done his, but he basically cut it out of timber.
Right. I won't say too much, but he cut it out of timber.
Not just a block of timber.
Okay. So then you've got that. Then you can pour rubber around that, which then makes your form, and then you use that. Is that sort of how it works?
Yeah, well, basically get the block, make a box, and attach the block, get the rubber, tip it in, undo the box, peel the rubber off the casts, and there's your mould.
Hopefully.
I'm
sure there's lots of times where there's air bubbles and...
Yeah, I've stuffed up many of moulds, but you can sort of use them to a degree. Like, that's how I sort of got into... Like, it's a shame to throw away a mould because it basically costs you about $300 to make
just
in
for
rubber.
In rubber. Wow. Okay.
So I've played around with ones I've made that have stuffed up to try and do the exposed ones by putting stuff inside it to make it be an exposed mould. And
there's a lot to learn, isn't there?
There's a lot. I'm still learning. I'm still failing and still going. But yeah.
So you eventually kind of make a copy of his mould almost.
He makes me one of his.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you start to go. You're messing around with different.
I start
concretes.
taking it to work.
Right. Go look at this, fellas. Any extra concrete? Send it my way.
Yeah, that didn't last long.
Why not? Because they didn't like you doing it.
It felt weird. Like I'd try and do it like if we were like doing the footings or something, because you couldn't really do it. You had to really do it at the start of the pour, because sort of mid towards the end of the pour is when all the action's on. It's going, oh fuck, need help. Mm-hmm. I'd try and do it early, but then at the same time, once I did do it, it was not made with love. It was like quick tap or something. Right. Hopefully it's vibed good. And then end of the day, I'm carrying this fucking block back to my car and driving home with it. Get it out of the car, take it to the shed, and I'm like, nah, I'll just start making it home. It's chilled, I can have a beer.
Yep. Yeah, okay, that makes more sense.
Yep.
So then, because you've got to think, like any kind of concrete surface, you've got to vibrate the bubbles out, and you've got to sit, it's got to sit perfectly level. You put it in your car, all of a sudden it's on the fucking angle.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, even a few times, driving home, it's like wet concrete. I'm like,
yeah, we might have a couple of beers.
Yeah, a couple
right?
of beers.
Can you do that?
Bartender Frozzy.
Can you?
Yeah, driving home with, even if it was poured late, I was like, well, it's going to help the vibrating, really. It's sort of like leveling it out.
That's
like not wet.
Yeah.
Not wet, but yeah, at the same time, even back then, pouring like 25 MPa driveways with a mate in winter. And
What's MPA?
so MPa is the structural strength of concrete, so it can vary a lot.
Okay, right. So that's not necessarily even the consistency, the thickness, the weight. It's
the strength of it, yeah. So it's how much they do pressure tests on it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So on big decent concrete pours, like decks and anything in the city or structural, they'll have a tester there, and he'll take samples in these steel cylinders.
Okay.
And he'll come pick them up next day. They'll take it back to the lab. They'll sit them in water for, basically they do the first test in a week. They'll squash it, and whatever PSI pressure it takes to squash will be the strength of the MPa.
Right.
Sort of. I'm not a concrete
with
scientist.
Rio through it, or just straight conch?
No, it's just basically a 200 high, 100 mil wide cylinder tube.
Okay. So it's checking the structural integrity of that concrete with nothing else in it.
But it's a scam anyway. Because, well, being a concreter, this load will rock up. It's so dry. Tester will come in, grab his stuff, and we'll sell them, piss it up, put another 40 litres in. So his test's different to what we're pouring with.
Right.
But it sort of sometimes has to be done. Otherwise you can't work in it. I worked with one deck a couple of years ago now. It was in Dandenong, and the engineer was there the whole time, and he wouldn't let us put water in any of the trucks. We sent 2 or 3 back, and they were a nightmare to screed.
Right.
Like, just unworkable. Like,
because he thought that was gonna.
Yeah, like you've sort of got to think too. Hot day, it's the steel barrel of an Agi truck. It's cooking in there. Like, even when I make my blocks, and when I did go down the road of buying a concrete mixer, I bought a black one. I thought, oh, that black one looks pretty tough. Yeah, fucking summer hot days, I'll stick my hand in that when it's mixing. It's like an oven. Yeah. But yeah, so it's that hot in these Agi trucks, and basically also too, the Agi truck drivers, they've got to keep it mixing while they're driving, and yeah, then they've got to wait in traffic too, so that dries it out inside.
Yes. Again, so many variables.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. So then when you get your block at home, you get I guess you're starting off with your own little barra, and just like Bunnings cement?
Yeah, Bunnings cement, Bunnings bucket, and a double-handled paddle mixer that you see like renderers and people like that use. Like,
but you'd been working with concrete, so you kind of knew the ratio and whatever. So you
sorta,
right, because it is different. You don't want it to chip. You don't want it to be too dry. So you just go through a trial and error process.
Pretty much, yeah. And then also too, like, concrete batching is another thing in itself.
Okay, well, explain that to us.
I still like, it's the guy at the plant that everyone yells at. All the concreters is like, "What the fuck did you give us this fucking load?"
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess because something's too dry, it's got too much of X component,
not mixed properly, or was this? And some plants can do the dodgy. They'll have a truck come back with a cube in it. They'll top it up with fresh stuff. We get it mid pour or something, or it's the last bit of the pour. Why is this like rock hard and the first load's still wet? Fucking hot load, fucking batcho. Like, it happened in Port Augusta with us when I was with Convic. We were spraying this oververt bit, and the foreman running the job, he's like, colour doesn't look the same. It was terracotta, marigold. So he sent the truck back to the plant, and Port Augusta, small little town, they basically threw another bag or two of colour in and sent us the same truck. And even the pumpies are spraying it. It's just blowing the end off the nozzle because it's blocking up. It's going hard in their lines. And I've grabbed a bit and just made a ball, and it's just gone solid. I'm like, fuck. And I looked at the receipt at the end of the day. We only just got that. It started raining. I ended up walking back to the sea container. I'm like, I give up. Fucking whatever. It's done. And yeah, then I got the docket off the foreman, and I looked at it and had 9.15, but they'd put a 0 where the 9 was and a 1 in front of it, 10.15.
Right. And you can't. That extra hour makes a big difference.
Yeah, they've just basically, like, they should have just been a whole new receipt because it should have been a whole new load.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't.
What can you do?
Yeah, the batcher's the batcher. Like, that was the worst thing about building the skate parks is you come into town as the new guys and the concrete plant, if there's one or two, they've got their locals. They'll supply them with early concrete. Yeah. And we might get a load after lunchtime or something. Yeah. But you got to be nice to him too. Otherwise, he can just go, he can fuck you up. Right. All right, I'll put a dose in this. Like, because you can add stuff to concrete as well to make it go hard quicker or not go hard, like retardant and stuff. There's a lot of variables with it. It's a bit of a...
Yeah. So then when you get your blocks, when you get your setup at home, you start to think, well, I can play with this. I can make it exactly the right consistency, all that. Obviously, there's variables between the, moisture in the air, all that sort of shit. But you can do it at home in a pretty controlled environment. And it lets you get creative.
Yeah, it does. But then also too, because I'm still doing it outdoors, it's like if it goes hard within this time, like if it's forecast rain, I'm fucked, basically. So if it goes hard but before it rains, it's a good thing because that's basically water curing itself. But it's got to at least be like at least 2-3 hours old.
Yeah.
So because many a times, and I'm lucky I live near this golf course. It's pretty high end, Yarra Yarra golf course. They've got a siren when it's about to rain. It's like a full air horn. Like, to warn the golfers, like you got 10 minutes to get off the fucking. It's awesome for me. Like I've had mates come over to just get stuff off me and shirts, and they're like air horns going. I'm like, fuck, get the plastic out, cover it over the blocks I've already poured just on the bench that's still wet, and wait it out.
So when you started making your own blocks, you're thinking about making pool coping, or what are you thinking about?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a few blocks for like a backyard setup, or just use some leftover concrete at work to... it was just like a little hobby thing. So you're just...
And so you made a few and you skated them? Did you use them to
start
start with?
So once I sort of made a few, I pretty much put them on a mate's little kicker ramp and had a little skate. I'm like, oh, these are sort of fun, and yeah. And then basically got on Instagram, and no, I was on Gumtree before that because I still had a few leftovers from Jimmy's blocks he made at the skate park that I went to Sydney, got a mould, brought them back for the guy at the skate shop. So I put them on Gumtree, and this guy in Baronia, Tez, who had done the backyard bowl for, Psycho Bricky.
He's got a concrete backyard bowl.
Yeah, that little pool thing, yeah.
That's sick.
So it was almost COVID times now, and... I'm
just going to close that. I've left the fridge open.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, so it's almost COVID times.
Yeah, and I've got this little ad on Gumtree because I've never been on social media or anything, Facebook, whatever else. Couldn't have been bothered ever. Yeah. And so I put this ad on Gumtree, and this guy messages me, and he's like, "Oh, I'm building this backyard bowl. Thinking of putting pool coping on it. Wouldn't mind grabbing a few of your straight blocks." I'm like, "Yeah, cool." He sends me a photo. I'm like, "That looks pretty sick." And yeah, it just sort of started chatting, and I'm like, "Yeah, I can." He's like, "Oh, I probably only need 6 or 7." And then I'm like, "Yeah, cool. Do you need a hand? Have you ever done anything like this before?" He's like, "Oh, no, I'm a brickie, so I'll just mix up concrete myself." I'm like, "Yeah, do it in small sections." He had it done like how you see American setups, just with a runner here. I'm just going to do a couple bays at a time. And sort of me being half boardish and stuff was like, "Oh, I'll come check it out, and I'll come help you pour and show you how to trowel it and what trowels to use, blah, blah, blah." And yeah, went out there, looked at it, had a couple of beers with him, and he's like, "Oh, what do you think?" And I was like, "Oh," in my head, I'm like, "Steelwork's a little bit dodgy, but it is sort of COVID." And
is that like the Rio? But I guess he doesn't know. He's having a crack.
Yeah, that's it. And it was limited to back then. Like, you couldn't really, unless you're a proper business. It was like the time when you
couldn't go to Bunnings.
Couldn't go to Bunnings. That's what I mean. Like, or yeah, only really businesses just survived with getting materials too.
Yeah. So if you were building a backyard, like a DIY type scenario, how would you do the Rio? Is that really important? Is it?
That's your like the bones in your body, basically.
Right. So if you smooth it all over nice, it doesn't. If your Rio's not square or not sort of curved, or what is it that's got to be?
So if the Rio isn't basically the Rio's got to be middle of the concrete.
Okay.
So if it's too high, it's gonna, like you see some footpaths or driveways where it's been high and the concrete's actually cracked away and it's exposed steel.
Right.
That'll rust and cause concrete cancer. Right. So even concrete gets cancer. Yeah.
Right. So
and it'll start fucking up the concrete.
And if it's too low,
it doesn't really work as much because you've got too much concrete above it, and it'll crack. And yeah, it'll crack anyway. Concrete's concrete.
It depends. Yeah, the earth moves and.
Yep, that's it. It expands and contracts. It gets hot.
Mm. So you helped him out with that. You tried to adjust the Rio and that sort of thing, or it was
a little, but it was more like when are you going to pour it? And he's like, oh, me and a mate are thinking tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, I'll come around and help. And then that morning, a mate called me, and one of his guys didn't rock up. So that's another thing with concrete too. Concreters, sometimes have a few too many and don't rock in, and it happens. But so one of his guys didn't rock up, and he was short of a hand pouring a driveway. And I'm like, fuck, these guys are starting to pour at 9 or 10. I've got to go. I can only do half day for you. Like, got it done, and let our mate know. And he's like, oh, we're already starting to mix. I'm like, fuck. So they tried the straight wall first, and I got there just on that point. I got there about midday, and I was just on that softer hard stage where it's pretty crucial. I'm like, oh, he's done a pretty good job, like, but I still think we've got to cut a bit more out of here, do this, do that. And I'm hacking at it. It's just like, fuck. And then the whole thing back in my head's like, am I going to get this? Or whatever, it's just backyard. Yeah, and then got it good, and then basically I'm like, I'm going to burn it. Smooth finish. They call that the burnish finish.
Right.
So by now, it's like, that was when we were on curfew. I think it was 8 or 9 o'clock.
Wow.
Curfew back then. And I'm in Baronia, and I'm in Bentley. And he's like, oh, I'll, because he's a brickie, he's got his sort of own business. And he's like, oh, I'll do your permit, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. But it's still going to take a little bit more. No, that's fine how it is. I'm like, nah. Gotta make it shiny, man. I'd had a few beers. Why do I do this to myself? And so basically, what time did we finish up? I think we finished up about 2 a.m. Blind. Oh, well, had a few.
You did the whole pool? Or
just that section. Yeah. But yeah, we're drinking and chatting, and like I'd known this guy for 2 days or so. He's like, oh, what are you gonna do, man? I'm like, I'll just sleep in my car, dude. It's all good. Like, sure, yeah. And then he's like, oh, I better give you some money and shit. And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, just crash on your couch. He's like, yeah, I'm like, dude, I'm not going to steal anything. Fuck it, we're both tradies, both skate. Yeah, all good, man, all good. And yeah, wake up, bang. 6 a.m, went outside, done a piss, looked at what I'd done. Yeah, it looks all right. And been best mates ever since. He was just like, all right, when are we doing the next section? I'm like, let's do it. So I think maybe it took almost a year to do it all.
Really?
Yeah, because what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pours all up.
Wow. Would you have done it differently now?
Yeah. 15 cubes all up, he hand mixed.
Hand mixed it? Yeah. Which is a cheaper way to do it or not?
Yes and no, but then he still had to barre it down to me in the bowl.
Right.
So he had a plank, and he'd sort of hit the skids on the legs of the barra to stop it from once he got inside the bowl. Like, the bowl's probably only 5 foot, 3 foot or so. Not high, but to get concrete in it, it was fuck me.
So you would have used a proper truck?
I was all for getting the truck and basically getting a heap of mates around, barring it and stacking it. Yeah, it didn't really. He was sort of asking around some concrete plants, and they were limited back then too. Like,
So you had some good times, though.
yeah, oh yeah,
So while that's all happening, you're working on your own sort of blocks as well. Like you're playing around with other stuff that's not just the straight blocks and the curved ones.
no, I'm still doing straights now because I had a straight mold. That's all I had.
So you hadn't made any more molds even.
No, I didn't even know how to make them. I see my mate make them. I'm a bit in that. It was a bit sort of like, just this mold's going all right. Like, yeah, whatever.
So what about when you need to have a curved coping?
Yeah, that comes. Like, because even he was like, I'll just get the straight blocks off you. And he whipped up a timber box with a bent bit of PVC for the corners and started trying to pour them. He's like, these are shit. I'll just get your blocks and cut them to suit the corners, like how they're done on old school pools with the 100 mil brick.
It's not going to grind very well.
It's actually not too bad.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of work,
Yeah.
But yeah, this was pre-curved mold, so I just started doing straight ones, and then yeah, basically Noble Park came up to do a few replacement blocks there, and that's when
They hit you up.
They went through grind projects,
Uh-huh.
and he hit up Shane at Revolution. He got the profiles made up, the molds, sent them to me, and yeah.
He said, I can do all this stuff, but I'm not going to sit there and hand fucking pour and cure this whole thing.
No.
So can you get Skateblocks to do it for us? Well, you
Pretty
took
much,
it.
yeah.
You took it and ran with it.
Yeah, well, that was it. And by then, I'd already put some of my blocks all over the place, like the tannery. That was another adventure. And yeah, even then Tookarook DIY. Yeah, so the straight blocks were sort of popping up here and there, and people would just randomly message and, oh, I've got a backyard timber mini ramp. I'm going to do an extension. I'll get 2 blocks off you. Yeah, sweet, done.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, there was no really bad comments coming back. So I'm like, oh, I hope they're all right. Like, but yeah, I sort of did keep playing with the mix a bit more and doing this and that to it.
Yeah. Learning as you go.
Always still now.
And even, so then at what point do you start messing with the different aggregates, the different glass, all that sort of stuff?
That pretty much came when I broke my wrist at Tookarook DIY.
So yeah, so tell us what happened there.
The coping stuck out a little bit,
Right.
too much. Yeah.
Was that your fault or Ryan's fault?
Oh, I think Ryan, but he reckons the kids learn on it, but we'll never know. But they are fiddly as fuck to lay in themselves because they want to slide. You've got to put wedges in to secure them, and yeah.
So
Laying them's another thing.
So tell us how you broke your wrist.
I went down there. Went back to work early for the company I was working for. It was like the 5th of Jan, and we were gonna pour the whippy bank ledge thing, cantilever-ish style thing. Looks like a culvert with a bank on it, and basically went back to work. And I think I was talking to Frizy earlier that day, or he rang me the day before saying he wants to sort of get it going. He's got the forms ready and he's going to pour it in his garage and we'll wheel it down. I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. I'm in for that. Fucking. So yeah, I pulled into home, grabbed 2 beers and some Rio, went down there. I think I'd had about 2 beers on the way. I was on my 2nd beer when it happened, yeah. And got there and he's like, oh, everyone's saying the blocks stick out too far. I'm like, oh, yeah. Don't know, I haven't been there since we poured the quarter. And then he's like, oh, come check it out, see what you reckon. Oh, don't have my board. I'm just wearing these shitty shoes that are worn out. No, come down, use my board. Yeah, I started skating down with him. Oh, it's not bad, it's an 8.5, what a ride. Wheels are a bit small, but whatever. And yeah, I've done a few little stalls and stuff on it. I'm like, yeah, it's a bit bonky, a bit protruding. And then sort of got, yeah, like, oh yeah, I can stall it, but fucking, I'm bonking back in. And then just went and done a front rock. And I knew I didn't have this as soon as I turned to come back in. And the board stayed up there, my front foot come off, and just put my arm out in a weird way, like.
And landed on the ground, not on the tranny, on the ground.
Bitumen, the flat.
Snapped it.
Yeah, just felt a pop. I was just like, I sort of bonked my head a bit too. I was fucking trying to get the board off there too. I'm like, turning, and then it was basically just like standing up, falling over. Like the slightest, it wasn't, I've had so many worse slams and bounced off it. But yeah, as soon as I put my arm out, I think I had it in a weird spot, but I just felt it go pop. And I'm like, fucking no. Pulled my jumper back, and it's just like an S-bend. I'm like, fuck, I broke my wrist. And he's like, no, I reckon you probably just sprained it. And he grabs like 100 mil long stick, and he's like, just try and brace it with this. And I'm like, dude, that's not going to work. And I'm walking, I'm holding it. Do you want the rest of your beer? I'm like, no, I think I'm going to faint. And I'm walking, and he's like, oh, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. I'll try and drive back to Bentley and go to the Monash. And I'm like, fuck, I'm in the work ute. It's an Amarok with fucking gears. It's going to be a challenge. And then he's freaking out more than me. And it didn't really hurt. That was the thing. So I'm like...
But it looked gross.
Yeah,
you knew it wasn't right.
I've seen worse, like almost a year later. But I'm like, oh, it's about time. Fucking been playing around with skateboards for long enough and doing stuff. Like even back when I was riding motorbikes, never broke a bone. So it was the first broken bone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No, touch wood. Fucking. Yeah, so we went back to his place, and he's like, oh, let's have some of these painkillers, No, well, even before that, I started trying to grab Rio off the roof with my good arm, because I'm like, well, someone's going to have to come down here and grab the work ute. So I grabbed this Rio. No, I'll do that. And then he's fucking sitting at the dining room table. He's like, oh, do you just want a water? I'm like, yeah. And he's pulling out this and fucking, this is a painkiller. I'm like, sure. Fucking, yeah, all right. Fucking. And then, got his missus to take us to the hospital. And it was early Jan then too. So you've got all the people camping there. Because like, Frankston will be busy. He'll go to Rye Hospital.
Or Rosebud?
Was it Rosebud?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rosebud. Yeah, so I went in there and I'm like, oh, yeah, I think I broke my wrist. They went too fast. I'm like, yeah, just take a seat there, fill this out. I'm like, oh, fucking. And it's sort of numb. He gave me an ice pack and I'm like, I expected it to be like fucking bit agonising pain, but I'm like, oh, it's not too bad, but at the same time, I can't fucking, it's just like hanging. And, that sort of sat down for about 5-10 minutes. And like, all right, you guys go down this hallway. And there was like a sign saying fast lane. I'm like, oh, we're on here. Yeah, sweet. He's like, yeah, it won't take long. Sitting there waiting. I'm like, fuck hell. I'm just like, legs crossed, supporting my wrist and the ice pack.
Did you show them? Did you actually?
Yeah, straight up. And they're like, oh, yeah, you probably have. They're like, there's people... Probably about 10 people in there, just like all these other problems. And so then we sat there for a bit, then the ice pack just started to just go warm. I'm like, man, this is taking forever. Can you roll me a smoke? Oh, I don't really know how to roll that well. I'm like, I'll get it started. And then he's like, oh, got some beers in the toilet if you want one. I'm like, what?
He stashed them.
Yeah. He got beers in the toilet. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, nah, man, I probably might have to have surgery. Like, no, I'll pass on that. But just try and roll us a ciggy. And then, went outside, had a ciggy. And I think I went in there about 5:30. It was about 8:30, 8:45. They finally x-rayed me. Then the doctor had to reset my arm because they're like, oh, it's probably going to need surgery.
They give you painkillers before they did that?
Yeah. And like they're trying to, I had my work shirt and hoodie on. They're like, oh, can you take these off? I'm like, just cut it off. Like, and then put something in me and gave me some tablet and said, oh, if your lips start swelling up, let us know. It's an allergic reaction. I'm like, yeah, cool. And basically this like little buff Chinese fucking Aussie doctor come in and he's like, all right, I'm just going to try and reset it, and just started yanking on my arm. I'm like, no, I can't look at this. And then even the nurse lady's like, yeah, I had to look away too. It was like, he's going to break your arm. And I'm like, yeah, it's already broken. But yeah, as he's yanking on it, it just went pop. I'm like, oh.
And it felt better instantly?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, maybe that's it. And he's like, oh, we'll x-ray it. And then x-rayed it. He's like, oh, we're very close, but you're still probably going to need surgery. And then gave me a temporary cast. And Fry's like, oh, just crash it mine the night. And I'm like, no, he's staying in. And I'm like, yeah. So yeah, they took me to a room with 2 or 3 other people, and I had to sleep with the cast on with one of those like hanger things. And I'm like, ah, fucking hell.
And you needed surgery?
Yep. Yeah. So next day, wake up, because I got fuck all sleep with all the noises and fucking people getting fluids changed, and yeah. So I woke up. I'm like, all right, what's the go? Like, let's go, let's do this. What are we doing? And they're like, oh, we'll x-ray it again. X-rayed it. All right, wait. Back in my room. And then, yeah, you're going to need surgery, but we need to wait for a bed to be available at Frankston Hospital. It's like, bruh. Yeah, so it was about 1 o'clock, got taken to Frankston Hospital, and they put me in a lovely room with a view of the construction site.
There you go.
That
Feel
they're
like
adding
you're at
onto.
home.
Oh yeah, it's just like, oh, awesome. And then yeah, just sort of settled in, and they're like, oh, I wanted to have a cigarette too, and I still haven't had a shower. I'm like, have a shower, and they're like, oh, they're ready for you, because they told me 4:30, and they're like, no, they're ready now. I'm like, well, I'm not ready. Like, yeah, but you have to go now. I'm like, fuck. Here we go. And about 3 nervous pisses while I was laying on the bed they wheel me to, and like, you just went. I'm like, I just want to go again. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't like going under, because I've only had 1 surgery, and that was like a hernia operation years ago. Yeah. From lifting heavy shit. But yeah, I was just like...
But you're all good now.
Yeah, it's like 100%. Like, yeah, because they said it's never going to be the same again, blah, blah, blah. They said that with the hernia thing too.
Yeah, but you'd also say, look, I'm a concreter by trade. I need to be using this.
Yeah, but it's my left hand too. Okay. Right-handed. The fucking...
that's a money maker.
The trowel arm, yeah. I did start swapping up like midway through building parks, because I ended up looking like a bit of a mud crab just from troweling with my right hand so much. The amount of fucking trowel work we do.
So when you're off the tools and you're waiting for that to heal up, you start to mess with things a bit more, play with different molds?
Because what they done to me too, they put a steel plate in and they put a temporary screw through my wrist so I wouldn't move my wrist. But they said the temporary screw's got to come out in 2 weeks. I'm like, okay. Yeah, you have to go under again. I'm like, fuck, why? Yeah. Like, yeah, so I had to get that taken out 2 weeks later. And then basically they left me with the cast still on. And then that came off, I think, another 3 weeks later. And they gave me a heap of physio exercises and just started pumping that out, like overdoing it.
Overdoing it? Yeah.
Just trying to get movement back, because it was just so stiff and tight. I was just like, nah. And then once I got a bit of movement back, I was like fucking bored and started pouring these ashtrays with the glowstones and crushed glass.
That was your first sort of experiment?
Pretty much, yeah. And playing around with the polishing. No, well, before that, no, actually. I poured an exposed driveway with the straight mould, and it turned out shit, the block. Didn't vibe it enough. It's bubbly. I'm like, I wonder if I can polish this. So you see the stone.
Right. So have you got some examples here? Frizy, this is your time to shine. We got some examples of any of this sort of stuff?
So that's a polished one here.
Right. So what's the mix there?
That's actually work mix. That's from Cranbourne Station.
Really?
Yeah.
So when you pour it, hang on, let me get...
I take it to work too, the ashtray moulds. Still, like, I don't take the normal block moulds to work anymore. It's just too much stuffing around.
But I'm trying to get my head around it. That is going to... Which way is it poured? Upside the other way?
Upside down, yeah. Right. So you never know what they're going to look like until you take them out of the mould.
But how is that... You have to polish that down to get that aggregate...
Yeah, so once it's out of the mould, I'll get my grinder and basically set it on low setting and start polishing the top, flip it on its side, polish the sides, sit it off an edge, and then try and shape the bullnose without stuffing it up.
So what I'm trying to get my head around is when the it's upside down. When it's upside down, isn't there going to let air through where those little bits of aggregate are protruding?
Yeah, so you've got to tap it. You've got to get the air to come up.
Right. So do you vibrate them? Do you bang
Well,
them?
the ashtrays, I have sat them on timber and used a hammer drill.
Yeah.
To make it bounce like my vibrating table sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or you can sort of pour it. Well, half the times we pour concrete pretty wet anyway, if it's a big pour.
Right.
So try and get it when it's at the start of the pour, when it's wet, throw it in, tap it as best I can, and hope for the best.
And you don't know until it comes
No.
out. So with something like that, you've used from, like you said, Cranbourne Skate Park.
No, Cranbourne train station.
Cranbourne train station.
We poured some footpaths.
Which is pretty cool. So, and they wanted exposed aggregate like that.
No, that's just the
mix.
That's the mix they use because it was footpath, so it just gets broomed.
Right.
So yeah, that's the thing too with all concrete plants all over Australia. They always use there's always different aggregates and stones going through it.
Right.
Like their mix, whatever they're using, and supply gives them. And
so even when you see the solid grey concrete, just stock standard footpath, that will have aggregate similar to that or something like that in
very similar, or might have some sort of coloured stone, but usually your standard concrete's just got black aggregate in it.
And what is that actually made of generally? Like, is it ground down?
It's just crushed rock.
Crushed rock.
Yeah.
Right.
So the exposed mixers, they're more of they'll try and get some fancy sort of stone, and
because that's become
you're gonna see it.
A real trend in driveways and everything. Everyone's like exposed aggregate now. Like everything goes in different trends, and that's a real thing where you're paying more per square meter type scenario.
Yeah, and you're washing off the top layer too.
Right, so you're using more conch?
No, like especially too with colour. Like say you want a black exposed driveway, you'll pay for the black oxide, which is in the mix, but you'll wash the whole top layer off to see the stone.
Right.
So you'll basically losing a bit of the conch, but you still need it in the background, if you know what I mean, to get that black.
And do you think that trend is here to stay?
I think so.
Right, so that's how driveways will just be done from now on.
It is good. Like before that trend really kicked in, when I was sort of doing the house slab days, it was all stencil. So you'd pour it real wet, you'd have a roll of stencil.
So it looked like a brick pattern sort of thing.
Where you see the brick cobblestone pattern and you throw the oxide powder. It's horrible. You go shower that day and snort out your nose as black oxide, and you're singing, fucking, I wonder how much of that I breathed in.
Yeah, it's not good for you. So then you start with the ashtrays, but not that one, with the larger one?
No, this one. This was the OG one.
That's the OG one.
And it was basically just made as basically something to chew up my leftover mix if I had any.
So how did you make that mould?
I pretty much was helping Fish Taco. He got some blocks off me for his backyard ramp. And then we just started talking. He said, I've got a 3D printer. And I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind doing an ashtray. He's like, yeah, I'll have a play with it. And came up with this. I'm like, yeah, that's sick. And
so does the mould have to be a little... So like with a rubber mould, you can sort of twist it.
Yeah, it's like a polyurethane rubber. So like a real soft skate wheel. But they can 3D print with that. No, they print the master, the cast.
And then
I make the box, and then I tip the rubber in.
Now I'm getting it. Okay, all right. So then you take it from there. Where do you take the creative Skateblock style to from the ashtray?
I basically got half bored of pouring just leftover ones in, and there's only so many colours you can pour.
Yep.
So when I'd done the exposed one from the driveway that I was talking about before, that I didn't like how it really turned out, it was a bit bubbly, I got some polishing pads and put them on my electric grinder. So to polish these, you've really got to have a proper polishing grinder, variable speed. So I put these pads on this electric grinder I had in the back shed. So many people, you're not going to get the bull nose. I do tables all the time. You need a proper polishing grinder, blah, blah, blah. And I love sort of doing something that someone says you can't do.
You like the challenge.
Yeah, I love it. Like, yeah. And so, yeah, I get set up my grinder, got my mask, sort of set a hose on trickle near it, start it up, ving, there goes the fucking pad over next door's fence. I'm like, fuck, mate's right. No, got this, went and got the pad, started it on the block, and then just started polishing it, and then just started seeing the stone. I'm like, it's actually working. And then, yeah, to do the bull nose, I was just like, yeah, got this. And then once I'd done the first block, I'm like...
How many hours are we talking in one?
It took about 1.5 with that, because they'd fling off too, and fucking I have to get them. And so then I bought a cheap polishing grinder off eBay and got the pads with the sticky back. And yeah, that thing was fucking... It worked, but it had like a fucking... What is it? The stirrup pump sort of... It's like a fish tank filter. You had to have a bucket of water and get suction going, so it'd suck water through, it'd stop, start. And I, pursued with that for a fair bit and just started thinking I'll start polishing the ashtrays. And then I remember working with this concreter and he told me about glowstones. I'm like, what am I trying them? And then, found a glowstone supplier and they'd done recycled crushed glass and started sprinkling that in the mould first. I'm probably telling too many secrets now. And then pour the concrete in rather than putting it in the mix.
There you go.
Yes.
But well, look, if people are going to go to all the effort to do go nuts.
Have a go.
So then after those ones, man, because you've got a fair few down there, let's pull some of them out. What should we go to next?
Should we have a look at let's do another OG one.
Yeah, we've got assistant Ryan over here.
Some Packers.
Yeah.
All right.
Might have another beer, please.
I'll go one too,
two
Assistant
beers,
Ryan. Yeah, so this is like, this rubber's pretty flimsy. This thing, this has made a fair few.
Do you want to just move the mic in, because you're leaning forward now? Move them, just so we can get you. Yeah. Thanks, man. So you don't know how this is going to turn out?
No, it could be bubbly as, but I did tap this a fair bit. Pretty damn good.
So that is the same profile as what you've got there. Yeah, there you go. And that's got the black oxide?
Yeah, because I poured some Belco bowls yesterday. So that's only 24 hours old. Still.
So you would grind that normally? Or it's turned out okay, you don't need to?
Well, that's a thing. Like, it's always... Some of them I'll grind. I'm like, why did I do that? It looked better before. Because of the stone mix.
So if you did grind that just subtly, you would get some exposed sort of aggregate sort of look?
Yeah, I'd leave it, like, with grinding... Yeah, you pretty much got to let it cure for at least 2 weeks. Okay. Otherwise, it'll just go real sandpapery and it'll chew in. But yeah, you got to watch too. When you grind it, you can change the shape of it as well if you're hovering in one spot too long, and especially the bull nose. That's the hardest thing. Like,
yeah,
I've turned ones into lady fingers before that'll like, oh fuck.
That's what it is. That's the new one. So with the Belco, so tell us about the Belco Bowl Jam. You used that same mix, did you? So they commissioned you to do.
I just decided, because once I started doing these ashtrays and people were hitting me up from all over the world, really. Like, I've sent some to Spain, Barcelona,
and
US.
Through Instagram?
Yeah, that's all I've got is Insta. And it's sort of cool, like, and sort of funny at the same time, like sending concrete in the mail.
It's crazy. So people literally say, I don't care what the postage is, this is really sick, I want it.
Yeah, well, sometimes too, I sort of just go, oh, look, I'll send it to you because it'd be sick to have them overseas and cover a bit of the postage, just so it's not so full on. And
yeah. That's nice of you.
Yeah, I've sort of, It comes with us just getting out there a bit, but now I've sort of got to really, I think about what it is. And
So the Belco one that just happened, Frizy, got it closed in the fridge, man. It's really bad at that. So the Belco Bowl Jam that happened last week. Well, it's not going to be last week when this comes out. But is that the first time you've ever done anything that's like a
Trophy.
trophy?
Yeah. Yep.
And they said, we like what you do. How can it happen?
Yeah, well, sort of. I went down the road once I started doing them, and I got bored of them. I was like, well, I started talking to this mini trail guy that was 3D printing and making molds and tech deck stuff. And I basically contacted him because he was doing mini pool coping blocks. I thought, oh, this will be a fucking...
Out of concrete?
They use more sand and cement.
Okay.
So there's no real rock in it, I think. I'm not sure.
Right.
But yeah, the molds he gave me is like a little ice tray thing with tiny pool coping that... Yeah, like the tech deck guys are pretty onto stuff. Like they'll get a styrofoam thing, carve it out, put meshy stuff in it and make a bowl. And
yeah, and they like it to be to scale and everything.
Yeah, like they're making little mini pool coping things. So I thought, fuck, it'd be sort of funny to make some mini pool coping just with the slurry mix I have left and whatever. I don't know what I'll do with it. Make fridge magnets or something, which I have been.
Yeah.
So, yeah, started chatting to him, and then I seen he had done a quarter with pool coping on it. I'm like, oh, if I'm going to pay the postage, make us a quarter too. And then he's like, oh, I'll make you one with your logo on it. I'm like, yeah, cool. And then he made a big one, like bigger than his pocket style one, he calls it. I'm like, man, go with that. He's like, oh, I stuffed up the heights. No, go with it. Yep, sent me that. And I got a bit of other stuff like a slappy curb thing and a jersey barrier. So then I was like, wow, I've got all these other things to make. I'm like, do you want to make a Belco bowl? And then he's like, oh, I actually sent him one of these in a t-shirt, a polished one, just as like a thank you. And yeah, he sort of got onto it. He made me the bowl version, which I'll take out soon. And then I was like, oh yeah, cool. I want one in pool coping. He's like, oh yeah, I'll try it. And yeah, then he came up with the Belco bowl.
So he came up with it?
Yeah, he designed that.
But then you...
Well, basically, I put up a post of the Bondi bowl that Fish Taco designed for me. And I was talking to one of the Belco guys, Tino, and he was buying a bit of stuff off me and this, and I sort of let him know I'm going to do a Belco one soon. He's like, yeah, that'd be sick. I'll talk to a few of the guys and like maybe they could use it as a trophy. I'm like, yeah, that'd be rad. Like, whatever. Yeah.
There you go. So should we have a look at one of those?
Let's do the Belco bowl first. That one's well, you got it. Yeah, let's get that out of the way.
Well done, Frizy.
This one's a bit annoying. Packer. Yeah, this one's a bit fiddly to strip. But yeah, this was the first one he done. Because yeah, he came up with the concept of the one in pool coping and this round one, which is like an old school sort of ashtray. So I was like, I like both. Let's do both. But yeah, this one does take a bit to strip.
So are all the molds out of different urethanes?
Yeah, he made these molds as well. So these are a different urethane.
How long would you normally let them cure for?
I'm pretty keen on this one. I'm usually leave them 2 days.
And how long has that been? 24 hours?
Yeah, just. Here we go. I don't know. I used a pretty dry mix yesterday and I sat it in the sun this morning. But yeah, it's a bit fiddly, this one, because it's got this little tab on the roll-in. you go. It survived.
There you go.
That could be almost the best one.
Really?
Yeah, because always the pool coping gets the bubbles in it. Like, even when he made this one, I was like, yeah, it's got pool coping. Belco does got pour in place coping, but yeah, that's actually pretty sick.
Can I have a look?
There's some detail in it, but like he's done a really good job with it.
Yeah, man, that's epic. And so for the actual, so you've got your logo in there, but for the actual trophies, they also had like a plaque as well.
Yeah, they put that on.
Right.
So let's do a trophy.
So with that, you wouldn't touch that. Would you paint it? Would you do anything?
I'll seal it with the clear coat sealer.
Do you want me to? You might need a room. Do you want me to put? I'll just put it here.
Sorry about all the
That's all right,
concrete on the bench.
Super interested to see how all this works. Nice moustache, Woodsy.
Yeah, so I'll let them cure for a couple days, maybe a week, and then I'll clear seal it.
Right.
Just so it brings the colour back and it'll keep them basically shiny and not get stained so much. All right, so this is a trophy one. But yeah, these are fiddly to strip because of the web.
Yeah. Because I guess the more details, the more intricacies there, the more chances there are that it's not going to set properly, that it's not going to take.
Yep.
So when you're keeping it super simple with just a normal curved sort of bowl, you're pretty safe. The more of these little...
Pretty much. Like the standard pool coping block, you're pretty safe. Like, as long as you get the bull nose good and the top, like, this one's being a pain. Oh no, here we go. Oh,
Turned out all right.
pretty good.
It looks good, man.
So there you go.
Wow. Oh,
I think it's almost...
I don't want to drop it.
Yeah, 4 kilos.
4 kg.
I was surprised when Arissa was holding her trophy up.
Yeah, 'cause she's only little.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
probably
well,
better than Tom's trophy.
Man, that's pretty sick.
He had a few air bubbles in his.
Look at the detail in there.
That could possibly be the best one. I don't think there is an air bubble in that at all.
Perfection.
Oh, since I haven't been using my vibe table, I've been back old school using my electric pencil vibe. And yeah, yesterday this thing got vibed.
So explain to us, bring the mic just back a bit closer. So explain to us, so you've got a vibrating table.
Yeah,
which
so that's
is the best way to sort of make sure that there's no air bubbles. But having said that, you've got...
I've been canned.
Oh, you're right?
No.
Yeah, so besides the vibrating table now, you're not supposed to be using that because of a noise issue.
That's what I mean. I've been canned at home by the lady next door. We had a good run.
So it's that noisy?
It's not too bad. It's just she's been off me since because basically when I had the one mould and using the stick mixer, yeah, things were sweet. And then as soon as I got a concrete mixer, I just bought a cheap one off eBay. It's like pretty much antique. It's an old blue Easy Mix thing. Little blue. It makes the best concrete mix, but it's got three paddle beaters in it, which most have 6 or 8, I think.
Right.
So I pretty much, once I started doing Noble Park blocks, I got that because it was just too much to try and make 50 blocks with a stick mixer.
Right.
So yeah, once I started getting into doing more blocks, I'm like, well, probably going to need a bigger mixer. And then as soon as I just got the mixer, she was like off it.
Does it? Because is the mixer noisy?
No, it's like when you walk past a job site and you hear a bricky's mixer just like. Yeah,
that's.
Yeah, I'm in Bentley, but.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah. So I got the vibrating table. Found that on Gumtree. It was an old guy that was doing bricks and car stopper curb things and retiring, but it came without a motor.
So how do you put a motor on? Retrofit a motor?
That was the thing. I had it for almost probably 6 months or more, and it just sat in the corner near her window because that was weird. That's the thing. Like where I mix is near her bedroom window, so she's not even really that old. But yeah, like because when I did get the big black mixer, I remember one night I was pouring blocks, and then sort of got a system. As I make them, I'll pack shit up and clean shit. So it's a one-man show anyway.
Yeah.
And I did leave the mixer spin and clean itself about half an hour, and then that's when the neighbour feud started a bit. But I've always been nice and apologised, and yeah. And then towards the end of Emerald, that I was behind because of dramas with everything.
So you did all the pool coping for Emerald.
Yep, and made the molds.
Right. So that is a whole brand new skate park.
Yep.
That's shaped like a cock.
Yeah. We've got
Frizy again. Well, it's not really. It's a bit of a chody one.
Well, sorta.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah. It's like a Mickey Mouse ears.
Yeah, there's many. It's such a fun bowl, but I've still yet to get to it with the pool coping on it. But the day I helped Drover unload the pool coping in the container, had a skate and it still had the steel rebate that they curve screwed it off, and you could still scratch grind it. Yeah. It's fun. It's compact. It's like fucking whoa.
So now is that more of what you'll be doing on a commercial level, like doing all the tiles?
Well, hopefully, yeah, like. Because I think also too, the price of granite pool coping's gone up a lot.
Right.
So.
Yeah, well, like everything has.
Yeah, everything.
Like when you would have started concreting in Mackay, how much was it a square metre of concrete?
Bosses don't let too much out like that. But when you do cashies, it sucks. Because I've always been so shit with when people hit me up for like, oh, got a bit of concrete to pour. How much you reckon it'll cost? I'm like, I don't even know how much a truck's worth now. Because I know their prices went up too. But yeah, back then it was like $70 a square metre, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So.
But now it's like 200 though, isn't it?
Easy it would be.
Easy. And that's just for a basic sort of fucking driveway.
Yeah, and then you throw exposed aggregate on it. Oh, it's decorative. So, cha-ching, cha-ching.
The variables again.
Yeah, I know. Which also, it is a bit more work. You got to wash it off, come back next day, acid wash it, let it dry, seal it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just like the oxide black, concrete, man. That's my kind of jam.
But yeah, it does fade if you don't sort of seal it straight away too.
Right. So Belco Bowl Jam, they obviously used the as the trophies. Was it it's going to be about a month ago when this comes out, but was that a good weekend?
It started out, yeah. It was a sick weekend. There was a lot of good skating.
It looks like it. I've never been, man. It's
I'd
nuts.
never been either, and I'd always gone, yeah, I'm going, and then it'd just spring up because it's pretty much straight up start of the year. And I'll go next year, and said that for probably about 4 or 5 years. And then yeah, once they hit me up for the trophies, and they're like, oh, how much do you want from them? I'm like, man, I'll just donate them. Like fucking yeah. And I was like, fuck, I've got to go.
Did they give you a good shout out and everything though?
Yeah, I forgot to pick up my T-shirt off Jim, and then that day was pretty. Yeah, the night before I cooked it the Friday night. The welcome to Belco, that'll get many apparently, and yeah, it got me. Was great, and I drove up with Fish Taco. I think I cracked a beer about 10:30 or 11 because I'm like, well, he's doing all the driving, yeah. Got to Belco. We got there about just after the Belco Jam U-pipe stop. We just missed that. And then went to the street spots that they were doing. And I was meeting up with Spud because I took Blocks up with me for his backyard ramp. I was meeting up with him, and then I checked into the hotel, saw another mate, Pee-wee, and basically dropped the Blocks off to Spud, then was drinking the whole time from 11 on, and then, ended up back at the hotel, all sorted in my room, went to the Welcome to Belco party, talking, blah, 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 everyone, great time. And then it was like a blink of an eye and I'm 12 Ks out of Belco, walking on the side of the freeway.
You walked for 12 Ks?
I don't know how I got there. Last I remember, I was at the bar. I was just talking to Rune Gliffberg before that.
Oh, wow.
And a few other dudes. And then it was just like, I opened my eyes and I'm like, shung, shung, what the fuck, what? Road trains and semis going past me in cars. I'm like, how did I get here? Drop pin on phone, 12 Ks out of Belco.
Wow.
On the right way to get back to Belco.
Right.
But I'm like, what the fucking what? All right, I got my phone, got my wallet, got my cards, still had cash from when I sold Spud the Blocks at Belco, because I had a quick little roll at Belco that RV when I gave him the Blocks, and it just flogged down rain. And then that's when all the mayhem happened at the after party with everyone trying to ride the ramp and sliding out and eating shit. But yeah, and then I don't know, it was last night, but I wasn't. Yeah, like I got sick of beer. I remember getting 2 vodka Red Bulls, and I don't drink coffee, so that usually fucking charges me.
Yep. And
then it was just like I opened my eyes and I'm walking on the side of the freeway. I'm like, how the fuck did I get here? Fuck. Drop pin to see how far it is back to the hotel. It's saying like 12 Ks. I'm walking, I'm like fucking, I'm trying to get on the Uber app. They don't want anything to do with me. Trying to call a taxi. They're like, we don't know where you are. Fuck.
Good times. But it was an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, so I tried to start hitchhiking then, and that didn't work for me. I'm like, who's going to pick up a hitchhiker at fucking 3:30 in the morning? So one car did pull up about 10 metres in front of me, and I sort of was like, don't know about this. And then they sped off, and I was like, oh, fuck you anyway. But
So how'd you get back?
I was lucky the police pulled up.
The coppers.
I don't know if one of the semis, because I was getting the shits by the end. I'm sobering up now too. It's not like I'm maggot. And I'm like, how the fucking, I'm hot and fucking dirt. Like, if I go on an adventure, I usually take a roadie or something. And I'm like, I don't even have a fucking drink. I'm thirsty as. And I'm like starting to sweat. I'm like, do I have this in me? I'm like looking at I've got 8 Ks to go now. And I'm fucking looking at a tree. And remember the old footy coach back in the day was like, when we were doing training, like, you know, just keep running, push yourself. If you get to that, like, tree or power pole, just, like, aim to get to that. But when you get to that, try and push a bit further. I was doing that. I'm like, I'll get to that tree.
Are you running or walking?
No, I'm walking. I'm like, fucking, I'm looking 12 Ks. I'm like, oh, fucking hell, I got this. But fucking hell, why? First night. And it's all the streets, all the spots happen Saturday morning. I'm getting annoyed because I'm like, fuck, time I get back to the hotel, it's going to be sunrise. Fuck, I might even miss the bowl jam. Fuck. So, yeah, I started trying to walk a little bit in the side lane and stick my thumb out a bit extra, and semis are flashing their lights and honking. I'm like, fuck. So I don't know if one of them two-wayed the cops or something, but they pulled up, and when they pulled up, I'm like, hey, look, I'm so sorry. I don't know how I got here, but can you please help me? And they're like, yeah, give us your ID, and told them what I was down here for bowl jam, and yeah, they were real helpful. Canberra police were very nice.
They drove you back to the hotel?
Yeah, they put me in the paddy wagon. I've never been in one before. A lot of mates that fucking, because growing up in Mackay, the cop shop is right near the main strip of Mackay, and a lot of arguments happen mainly at the cab rank, which is like a block over from the cop shop. So a lot of mates were thrown into paddy wagons and watching them do that. I'm like, yeah, have a fun night. So, yeah, as I'm about to get in it, because there's a male and female copper, the female copper was, like, pretty cool. She's, like, telling because the guy's like, oh, Belco Jam, what, don't you know about that? And he's like, no, oh, it happens every year, the spider web. Oh, yeah. And then, yeah, basically, they've opened the back of the paddy wagon, and I'm just about to step in. I'm like, you're going to let me out, aren't you? Yeah, of course. Like, yeah, well, yeah. And I still had, as we're driving, I still had my phone set to the maps. And it's like, because I was only like 700 metres away from the exit too. I was getting close.
You're only 700 metres away from home?
No, the exit off the freeway.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Because you're actually on the freeway.
Yeah. And that was my main priority. It was like, got to get off the freeway. Because even doing Google Maps on the freeway, it wouldn't go to the walking version.
Yeah.
Because you're not meant to walk on there. So I'm like, fuck, surely there's a shortcut. And I'm like, nah, once I get to the exit, there's got to be a shortcut. So, yeah, as I got in the paddy wagon, the phone's still set. Exit lane, 600 metres, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, should turn that off. No, I might just keep that on, just in case, so I know I'm going to the hotel. And yeah, pulled up the hotel and jumped out, and fuck, it's pretty wild in the back of those things. There's no seatbelts.
But you weren't handcuffed. When you're handcuffed, it's a bad time.
Yeah, I would be. I can imagine. That's what I was thinking myself too. I was just like, man, imagine being like handcuffed, pissed, or fucking, or pissed off at whatever's happened, and you're just getting pinballed.
And sometimes they just go round and round and round in circles and bang you off the walls. But
Oh, yeah,
anyway,
well,
that's a different story.
Yeah.
So the Belco Jam was good. You had a good time. You'll go back next time, try and remember a bit more.
Yeah, well, that was it. I got to the bowl jam. I missed the street fucking events during the day. I got to the bowl jam, still a bit sort of annoyed at myself from the night before.
These things happen.
Talked to a few people. They're like, oh, you seemed fine at the bar. I'm like, well, whatever. I guess I'm putting it down to I just went for a walk and ended up on the freeway somehow. Because the bar was roughly 10 Ks out-ish, so it does make sense. I don't think... I got in someone's car and I'm like, oh, you're going the wrong way. Fucking let me out. Or passed out and started snoring and they just went, get this guy out of here. Like, fucking...
Good times.
Yeah, it was a good time. But yeah, the skating was sick. But yeah, when I got there, I was like, fucking on the stand. I'm like, fuck, I didn't bring a hat. It's fucking cooking. I'm like, talked to a few people and ended up on the platform. But I'm still like, I can't see fucking anything. And yeah, I wasn't in the best social mode.
But it must have been cool to see the people that won hold up your trophies.
Yep. But yeah, at the same time, walking back to the hotel and got back to the hotel and everyone's in the foyer ready to go to the after party. And I'm like, well, I might have something to eat. And I was just like, I didn't drink for a week after it.
Really? Yeah, rocked ya.
Yeah, and it's just like more so the thing that I just don't know how I got there.
Yeah, it happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's it. I've done many of things.
Don't stress.
So I'm nah.
All right, so we got a few more little pieces of...
couple more concrete trinkets.
Concrete trinkets, there you go. So if people do want these, they can DM you?
Yeah, just DM me. I have been meaning to get a website going, but I'm just going to go down the road. I'm a concreter and not too tech savvy. And
so what is it's at Skateblocks?
Yeah, at Skateblocks on Insta. So
that's a good get by you as well. Yeah, like you'd think that would have been taken when you started.
Yeah, I know, it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get some more of these Skateblocks. Assistant Frizy, can you bring us up some other stuff? You got some that are bit... Oh, here we go. That's a big one.
That's the big bulky Bondi one. Thank you. Yeah, so that one is a decent mantelpiece one.
So how much does that weigh?
7 kilos.
So that's a replica of Bondi Bowl.
Yeah, yep.
And so what made you want to do that?
I got bored with the OG, and this came before the Belco, so I was like, well, sort of want to maybe cover a few iconic bowls in Australia, which there's a few, but they always sort of copy and paste a bit here and there. Like,
Yeah.
people have hit me up for Fitzy, do a Fitzy one next.
Fitzy would be sick with the spine.
Do a Pizzy, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll look at it. And
near where I grew up, we had Elwood Bowl, and I don't think you're going to do any replicas of that because it's pretty shit.
no, I've been there before, yeah.
That's
It's like,
lumpy as, man.
oh, man, that was probably the same pool builders and council that done Bowen, my hometown.
So what else have we got? We've got a few...
It was even funnier that they just only had straight coping.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, do we not know how to bend
stuff.
coping?
What else we got? Oh, here's one that's...
Oh, here we go.
Here, come into the shop, Frizy. Come into the shop, mate. Show his face. There's Ryan from Took DIY. He formed up these ones, didn't he?
Yeah, he formed up the both of them. And I come around and poured some conch in them.
So they're actually replicas of some stuff that happened at his Took
DIY. Yeah.
So we've got... So what do you call that piece there?
That's like the spine. What do you call it? You built it. Nollie flipper spine. It's like a spine with no fill.
And then we've got the cone jam. Is that what
the cone jam.
Is that what is it? Yeah.
Cone jammer.
So did you design these pieces of material, or Ryan did?
Well, the cone jam was for basically a replica of what Clayton Gall built in overseas, a skate DIY guy.
Yeah. And
I was all like, let's do one at the Ride DIY. And he was a bit against it, saying it's going to be a hazard, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, how can it be if we pour it red? It's a witch's cone. People know they're a hazard anyway.
Yeah.
So that turned out pretty good for like a pour it on his backyard with a witch's cone that was cut up.
And then you just wheeled it down there and sort of laid it in place.
Yeah, we threw it on the back of his ute and glued it down. I was pretty hungover that day. There was plans, like even when we poured it, we put a dowel sleeve in it. We were going to drill a pin, but then you got to line the pin up and hope for the best. And so let's just glue it and...
Again, hope for the best.
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if council don't like it, they can just basically pull it up and it's not anchored in with a rod.
That's true. But so far, luckily, council has just let it be.
Turned a blind eye. That's how I first met Fries. He bought a shirt off me on Instagram, and then he started messaging me about all the little concrete things he was making, and then he said he's got this steel curb thing. He's gonna put it down at this basically park that's got bitumen and see how it goes. And then he started saying he's wants to get some blocks off me and build a quarter, and met him while I was on sort of mid-pour at work and gave him the blocks, and he's like, oh no, me and a mate are going to pour. I'm like, oh, come down and help me. Don't worry. Yeah, and then kept building since.
Good fun. What advice would you give to kids that want to start a little DIY spot somewhere, or even in their backyard, out the front of their house or whatever?
Get someone that knows what they're doing with concrete, and you'll get it.
But at the same time, you still want kids to have a go. You know what I mean? Like,
that's it too. Yeah, I guess there's that many YouTube videos now but at the same time, with pouring concrete, like, yeah, if you've at least got someone with a little bit of knowledge of it, just even how to mix it.
Yeah. So whether it's like a chippy or like someone who's a tradie who's worked with that medium before.
Yep.
Just speak to your mum or dad or uncle or next door neighbour or someone who's fucked around with it, and then you can give it a go.
Yep. Yeah, and pretty much, once you sort of start playing with it, you get a pretty good idea.
Yeah, and you can't really make mistakes, can you?
You can, but you learn from them.
And then you can. But the thing is, with like anything,
and with concrete too, like, if your mistake is horrible, that's a base that you can use or fill to build something off it.
That's it. So you build something, it turns out kind of shit, but that can be a happy accident that you could then build off that, which then becomes some new thing that people hadn't thought to make.
Yep, exactly.
So just give it a go.
Yeah, that's it.
As we get close to wrapping things up, man, is there anyone you want to shout out or anyone you want to tell what they should do if they want to work with you, if they want T-shirts, if they want shit?
Yeah, basically shout out to probably Shane Island, the guy that picked me up and taught me at Slade Point Skate Park. Thank you. And everyone I've worked with doing parks, DIY, and everyone that's got stuff off me on Instagram. And yeah.
At Skateblocks on Instagram, they can find you.
Yeah, just give us a message. Like, even people reach out and ask about sort of even the like things about making concrete and molds. Like, happy to help
And
and pass on what I know. And
yeah, and if somebody does have a space and the coin, they want to build something.
Yeah. And if anyone's got a factory that can accommodate a vibrating table, I'm in the look for one, because my last factory didn't turn out.
So we're talking in the southeast, somewhere between the peninsula and Bentley somewhere.
Yeah, or this stage I'm pretty easy going if it's just even this side, wherever really.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure. And if people have...
Winter's coming and I can't pour concrete in the rain anymore.
You need to be out. You need to be inside.
Can't rely on that siren from the golf club.
All right, man. It's been a good chat. We've learnt so much about concrete and all sorts of different stuff, man. It's been sick, and I appreciate you coming in.
All good, mate. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Thanks for the stubby holder.
All good.
Cheers.